Hi everyone. So we're going to have a look at doing shelters today. So this, if you haven't got a tent, or even if you have got a tent but you fancy doing a survival shelter, a bit like the Scouts did a couple of years ago, where basically all you need is a ground sheet to keep the moisture away from your sleeping bag and your roll mat, and then a waterproof cover to go up and over you just to keep the rain off. So I've got a tarpaulin here. It's not a camping tarpaulin, it's just one that you can get from a supermarket, or you can get from Screwfix or somewhere like that. Poundland have even got them in at the minute, and they are cheap as chips. But the disadvantage of them is they don't have many fixing points on them. Sometimes they haven't got any, or sometimes they've just got a little eye on the corner there, which are good because if you've got a tent peg, you can pass the tent peg straight through and hook it down. But generally, you need to get another mounting point in the middle of the tarp, so we'll show you how to do that. She's got the giggles because we're getting heckled from the back row of the patio. So if you have got a piece of polythene, I mean it could be anything, you might have had a bed delivered where you've got the old wrapper from the mattress, that would be big enough to do the job. Or even if you get some decent thickness bin liners or bags that you've maybe had compost delivered in and you can tape them together, that's something else that you could use. But if you need to get a fixing point on the tarpaulin without ripping it or damaging it, if you get a pebble or a marble or a plastic bottle top, anything really that sort of size, and if you put it on one side of the tarpaulin and then scrunch it up behind it just so that you can see where it is there. And an easy way of doing it is if you just take a couple of elastic bands, put it through and just twist it around a few times like that. That'll then give you a loop that you can anchor to, whether you either if you've got it on the edge here and you need to pass a tent peg through it, then you've got a way of anchoring it like that, or if it's in the middle of the tarp and you want to use it to suspend the middle and keep it off the ground, you can pass a piece of string through it or a bit of paracord or a guideline and use it that way. So that's dead easy. If you haven't got any elastic bands, you could use hair bobbles, or if you haven't got any of them, you could just use a piece of string. So it doesn't have to be proper paracord. For what we're doing here, just an old shoelace will do. Take it out your school shoes, you don't need them at the minute, do you? Don't tell your parents. So if you just, can you hold that for me? So just take a piece of string, tie a little loop in it like that, pass the loop around the pebble, and then thread the other end through the loop so it tightens up like a slip knot, like a little lasso. That pulls really strong and that's solid there. Okay, so even if you've only got a short, like a shoe length, or a shoe lace, you say that because I can't say it.
A shoelace length string.
That's it. If that's all you've got, that'll do the job, because what you can do is if you've got a loop on this end and your piece of string, and even if you need that then to be a metre long or a couple of metres long, what you could always do then is just tie a loop in the other end of it, and then if you've got something chunkier like a piece of rope rather than string, which would be too thick for doing this way, at least you've now got yourself a securing point. Okay, so the next part of building the shelter, you've got to be able to secure it to the ground. So we'll go on to what you can do on a patio in a bit if you can't actually put tent pegs into the grass, but if you haven't got tent pegs, there's plenty of other things that you can improvise with. So screwdriver, make sure you ask before you borrow one, but they're good. You might have some old cutlery. All that you're trying to avoid if you are improvising with anything is that A, it's strong enough that you can get it in. Next thing that you want is a little neck or a hook that you can actually get the tent peg to grip onto. But what you're trying to avoid is just having a straight stick with a sharp end on. So what you don't want is pushing something into the ground and having something sharp like that sticking out of it. So hopefully you've got a few tent pegs kicking about, but if you haven't, just see what you can find, and it only needs to be so long just to get a little bit of a grip. Or the other thing is, if you've got trees or fences or other things that are in your garden that are already fixed to the floor, you could possibly just tie it off to one of those that's already fixed in the garden, and that will save you the effort. Then the last thing that we need is some tent poles, and again, this just improvised. So we're going to use a golf umbrella. You could have a hockey stick. A garden fork's pretty good because you can actually drive the prongs of the fork into the ground and use the handle as quite a good fixing point. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to create a shelter using one tarpaulin, one golf umbrella, a couple of bits of string, and we're going to need 6 tent pegs. So we've got a few. We'll have to go and rustle something else out of the shed or the garage to try and make up the 6. Okay? What we've done now is we've fixed the back corner of the tarp down on the floor, one on that side and one on the other side, and we've stretched it out on the grass so it's nice and flat. Now we've done the back edge. Can you get the umbrella for us, please? We need to get the umbrella to the front edge just to form a support. So just going to put it in the grass a little bit. In fact, I'm going to bring it forward a little. Oh, that'll be fine. And can you pass us the orange bit of string, please? If we take a piece of string, say roughly, it's not that tall, is it? This, so maybe a length and a half, as long as that. So maybe to there. Okay. And then if we pass the loop through the eye and over the top, and then if we take, can you take that one for us and go over to that corner there? Yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
I've got this one. Just don't. So if you have a tent peg, that's probably a bit long, isn't it? So done that a little bit long. All we're going to do is just tie a little loop in that. So can you just push that in? So peg it through, pull it forward, well, all the way. That's it. Just turn the peg round now so it's not going to poke out. No, the other way. That's it, that's fine. Leave it like that up there. I'm going to do the same on this side. Again, I'm going to just make a little loop. Now when you do this second one, what you want to be trying to do is pull everything tight. So by putting the 2 tent pegs forward of this and then pulling it tight, it's pulling this tight, and it's also creating 2 taut lines down to the tent pegs at the back. So you've now got a nice tight shelter. The only thing left to do now is just to peg the 2 outer edges out. Okay, so for the final bit, take your 2 shoelaces out your school shoes, and all you need to do is just tie a little loop in either end. So loop in one end, doesn't have to be huge, same in the other. Can you do that? Got some more tent pegs, there's another one. And then when you've got that, you can either use the eye, or if you have to use the pebble method, use the pebble method. Pass the loop through the corner of the tarp, pass the other end through the loop as well, and then you've got a slip knot, so that will pull it tight. Take your tent peg and pull it tight. Typically I've done it too long. I'll just shorten that up with another little loop there. When you put this tent peg in, what you need to be making sure is that you're keeping this edge nice and straight and that edge nice and straight. So you're pulling nice and firm, put the tent peg at an angle, just push it into the ground. I've never seen her not done like that before. You've done the job. That's the thing, it doesn't matter, it's just a bit of fun. And you just got to improvise. So, pass one end of the loop through there. That's it. And oh, you suppose you could do it that way actually. So you could put both ends of the loop through the temp peg. Now, just 2 seconds long. What you've got to do is you've got to take it out. You've got to pull it tight now, diagonally that way, so that that edge there is tight on there.
I need to go through the temp peg first.
Yeah. Hang on, just line it up first before you try and push it in. Don't disappear. So, get your temp peg. Right, don't try and worry. Look, see the way that, hang on, stop, look. See the way that's bowed?
Yeah.
That's got to be nice and tight. So pull it forwards, like that's it. Nice and tight, and drive it again. Yeah?
Can I go in it?
Okay.
Can I go in it?
Go on then.
This is pretty cool.
Okay, so
It is.
Let's have a
This
look.
is like a nice little summer activity if you just want a bit of fun in the summer.
yeah. So that's big enough. What we're going to do now is just make one little adjustment, just to give a little more headroom. What we've done now is we put a ground sheet in, and the important thing with the ground sheet is that you have it set back from this front edge and from the side edges. So if it rains, you've got a good maybe 30 centimetres on that side and that side, so that any rain's just going to run down onto the grass, but you're going to be nice and dry inside. And then the other thing that we've done is we've used the pebble method here to put a fixing point there, and we've taken that up over a patio chair and back down on a peg into the grass and fix on the floor. So if you just try and secure it to a chair, it will tip over. So use that to give you the height, but fix it to the floor. What we're going to do now is to change it. So we're going to have what looks like more like a traditional tent setup with 2 open ends. So we've just put a garden fork in here and took the middle fixing point at the top and just created a loop there. If you don't know the knots, don't worry about it. If you can't do knots, do lots. It's an easy way of remembering it. And then we're going to take another length here, put it over the top of these knots, round ones, and hopefully, yeah, they'll just be long enough. Peg there. It's just enough. And we've got 2 more little loops just for the corners. So pop them through. So that's exactly the same at both ends now. Just gives you a bit more headroom, a bit more clearance. The only downside is the wind can get in at the back end now, but it does give you a bit more space. Third option, and it just needs 2 tent pegs at the back, 2 poles, 2 guy lines, and 2 tent pegs at the front, and the ground sheet's under there. So it's dead easy. If you know which way the wind's going to be blowing, put the back of the shelter, the low end, against the wind, so the wind goes up and over the top. That's quite good if you've got a view that you want to wake up to, looking out over something. Dead easy. Key with all of it is to keep all the guy lines nice and tight and make sure that the angle is pulling everything out, so that everything is always kept tight, and then any rain will run straight off it and it won't flap about in the wind.